Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good, Vidushi ma'am.
Sir, it's too hot outside. How you're managing?
Actually, UPSC, everything is just like scorching heat,
Yes, sir.
no? And teaching and studying, basically the coolest thing. I
Yes,
suppose that.
yes. So, sir, lot of upheaval happening around the world. There were many conflicts like Israel-Palestine,
Hmm.
Russia-Ukraine, North Korea, South Korea, and even China-Taiwan. And the reason behind such conflict is either they are demanding statehood or sovereignty, autonomy, or they are fighting for recognition of their cultural identities. Now, if we go for the solution behind such conflicts, experts suggest that solution is dialogue. That is the only way forward ahead. And I wonder, after listening such things again and again, that dialogue is the only makeover, only key forward. So same we faced in 20th century, early 20th century, which resulted into partition of India. So, sir, was there any probability or possibility that partition of India could have been averted?
Vidushi ma'am, it's such a good question. And it's very interesting to know whether we could have avoided partition of India and Pakistan. First of all, the question is that if we wanted to avoid the partition of India and Pakistan, answer probably is yes, but then that should have started decades earlier. The effort should have started decades earlier because the plan of partition of India and Pakistan, it was something that was not new. First, that is what we have to
True.
understand. Look, the British always were determined to go for their policy of divide and rule. And when they had to leave India, they wanted to make this policy got transformed into divide and rule to divide and quit.
Okay.
Think about it, Medusi ma'am, that India plus Pakistan and Bangladesh combined together, they would have left such a powerful enemy in international politics, which they ruled for such a long time, they exploited for such a long time.
True.
They would have lost their complete significance in this geopolitically significant area. So the British always desired for rival nations fighting against each other. That would have given them hold over this geopolitically significant area. Their policy was always very simple, divide and quit. Second and most interesting thing that we should understand that most of the people think that the partition of India and Pakistan was a religious partition. Then for
Because
those
it
people,
happened on the basis of religion.
yes, it is what it is believed.
Yes, yes.
But the history teachers, they can always create some controversy. So here I would like to create a controversy that if you think that partition of India and Pakistan, it was a religious partition. The first question is, don't you think that India remained a secular country? Second, India never accepted the two nation theory.
True.
Third, India remained one of the biggest Muslim nations in the world. That is what we have to understand. And fourth question is that if you think that the partition of India and Pakistan was just because of religion, then think about Middle East. All the countries are Muslim countries, but the imperial powers, they divided it like that they are all fighting against each other. Imperialism is always like this. They would go for their policy of divide and rule, and when they have to leave, they will convert their policy into divide and quit. That is what we have to
Okay.
understand.
So here I want to ask, like, okay, religion is one of the factor.
One of the
What
factors.
are the other factors that played vital role behind partition of India?
एक बहुत मज़ेदार बात है कि अगर हम बात करें भारत के पार्टीशन की,
Yes, sir.
probably the fate of India and Pakistan had already been determined in 1937 to 1939 time period.
1937.
Now, what happened in 1937? There were elections for provinces,
Yes.
no? And
Yes.
what happened? That Muslim League was complete failure. The
Okay.
failure of Muslim League in the elections of 1937 in provinces, it was like a shock to Muhammad Ali Jinnah because after decades of communal politics, Muslim League was a complete failure. Now, this would compel Jinnah to resort to extreme communal politics and demand a separate nation for the Muslims. So basically, he radicalized his politics further, and the demands became more and more extreme communal demands.
Okay.
Then in 1939, the Second World War started without much expectation of Britain and France like powers because so far Britain and France, they were following the policy of appeasement towards Hitler to divert his aggression towards USSR. But Hitler became too powerful, and that basically started the Second World War, quite unexpected of Britain and France. So it was like surprise even for Britain and France. But the Second World War gradually
Okay.
started breaking the imperial strength of Britain. And British, they were quite aware that it would not be for a long time that they would be able to control a big colony
Big
like
colony like
India.
India.
So what they did, now they started executing their policy of divide and
Divide.
rule, and they started giving a veto to Muslim League on constitutional talks.
Okay.
अब एक बड़ी मज़ेदार सी ट्रिक थी जो ब्रिटिश लोगों ने हम लोगों के साथ मतलब दे प्लेड विथ अस. They said that the constitutional talks would not be accepted without the consent of the minorities. And that was completely true. No constitutional talk in any democracy should be accepted without the consent of
Minor.
minority. But then they said that the constitutional talks, the view of the minorities would be coming through Muslim League. Now that was disaster.
Okay.
Because first thing we have to be careful here to understand that the Muslims, they themselves had rejected Muslim League in the elections of 1937. The British imposed Muslim League on Muslims and did not give them any other chance to represent their view. Now, this gave Muslim League and Muhammad Ali Jinnah almost a veto on constitutional talks. And that proved to be disaster for India because Muhammad Ali Jinnah would not accept anything less than a
Separate
separate
nation.
country and nation for the Muslims. That put the seeds. So basically, what happened in 1947, the background of that had already been decided in 1937 1939 time period.
Okay. So now, sir, if I sum it up, partition of India based on multiple factors, long imperative, long lasting factors, plus contingent factors, immediate factors like World War, First World War, Second World War. So, in anyhow, partition would have been the like a new reality. And here my question is that under what circumstances the narrative of Muslim League overpower which resulted into partition of India?
तो सवाल बहुत सही सवाल आपने पूछा कि असल में मुस्लिम लीग इतनी ताकतवर बनी कैसे और मुस्लिम लीग ही क्यों बन गई इतनी ताकतवर. दोनों सवाल हैं. अब एक बहुत मज़ेदार बात है कि व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट बिपान चंद्रा, दो बातें बहुत कमाल की बताई उन्होंने. उन्होंने बोला कि व्हाट इज़ कम्युनलिज्म. द पॉलिटिकल ट्रेड इन रिलीजन इज कम्युनलिज्म. उन्होंने एक लाइन में बताया द पॉलिटिकल ट्रेड इन रिलीजन इज कम्युनलिज्म. बहुत कमाल की बात है. व्हाट मुस्लिम लीग वाज डूइंग बेसिकली वाज अ पॉलिटिकल ट्रेड इन रिलीजन. It was a communal politics. Then Bipan Chandra says that the rise of communal politics in modern sense in India can be traced right after the revolt of 1857. So Bipan Chandra would say that modern communal politics would exist in India only around from the 1857 revolt time and onwards.
So here I would like to interrupt you that seed of disharmony between two communities were sown during the time of Aurangzeb. Is it true?
Look, many of the people they believe that maybe when you talk about the time of Aurangzeb, and certainly Aurangzeb followed a very communal type of policy. You can say that that was apparently very communal looking like.
Like sir,
Like you talk about Aurangzeb, he would be destroying the temples. Like you talk about Aurangzeb, he would not give very important position to like the Hindu mansabdars. Like you talk about Aurangzeb, he would be following so many policies like not supporting the any other religious ideology other than Islam. He said that he wanted to convert Darul Harab into Darul Islam. That is what Aurangzeb said.
okay.
So many of the people and many of the historians even they have seen Aurangzeb and the time of Aurangzeb like a start of very communal like politics. But that would not be right. Look, if you talk about the time of Aurangzeb, Aurangzeb talked about reviving the Islamic character of the Mughal rule. But don't you think that Aurangzeb also annexed the kingdoms like Golconda and Bijapur, which were Muslim kingdoms? If you talk about the Marathas, they talked about Hindu Padpadshahi, a Hindu empire that they would like to create. But the Marathas attacked over so many Hindu kingdoms as well. They fought against also the Rajputs.
True.
So you can say that they were talking about religion to get the emotional and the military support in their favor of the people and the warriors. But hardly they were actually mixing religion with the state. Because whether you talk about Aurangzeb or you talk about Shivaji, when they had to decide about administration, it has nothing to do with the state. So most of the historians, they would not believe that the communal politics in modern sense started in India before
Before
1857.
1857.
It was a 1857 revolt that was a big trouble for the British, and there were so many challenges for the British. But the biggest challenge what they faced in this revolt was the Hindu-Muslim unity. Now they knew that if the Hindus and Muslims they would fight against the British together, it would be very difficult to control the situation, such a big colony. So from that time onward, they always wanted to keep the Hindus and Muslims
Muslims.
divided. Under this, they started the policy of appeasement toward the Muslims.
Towards the minority.
Yes, so when they started this policy of appeasement toward the Muslim, there was a match. Similar time, you'll find that there was rise of a reformer who was a great reformer for the Muslims in education in so many other fields, Sir Syed Ahmed Khan.
Yes.
But a negative contribution was also there. Aligarh ideology had a flaw. The problem was that Sir Syed Ahmed Khan that time was looking for good government jobs for the Muslims, education for the Muslims. So in fact, inevitably he had to become pro-British. But the British had started following the communal politics, so the Aligarh ideology became communal in its nature, pro-British and anti-Hindu in its ideology.
Okay.
Similar pro-British, anti-Hindu and anti-Congress-like ideology was the ideology of Muslim League that was established in 1906 by the leaders like Agha Khan and Salimullah. Nawab of Dhaka was Salimullah, so many other leaders. They had established Muslim League. From the start itself, Muslim League followed very communal politics.
Okay.
Now, gradually, the British started giving more and more strength to this separatist group, Muslim League. For example, they accepted the demand of separate electorate of Muslim League. In the Government of India Act 1909, the separate electorate was inserted.
True.
Was it not a big problem?
Sir, here I want to ask one question to you. Like, I never understand like what is separate electorate. It's very confusing. So
For
can you
most
please
of the
elaborate on
people,
that?
it is very confusing to understand the true nature of separate electorate. Look, in India, what type of electorate system now we have? It is called joint electorate.
Okay.
So the candidate would come from a reserved community, but everyone can vote. So it's joint electorate that we have in India. The British came up with the idea of separate electorate. It was double reservation based on religious identity.
Okay.
So the Muslims would be categorized in separate constituencies from where only the Muslims would get elected and from where only the Muslims they would be able to vote. Here, the voter and the elected person, both of them, they came from the same reserved
religion.
community. So it was double reservation
Okay.
based on the idea of religion. That is what was something that made it very controversial. Now, separate electorate gradually would put the seeds of more and more discord. Gradually, it would increase the political stature of Muslim League because one major political demand of Muslim League had been accepted by the British. Again, a turning point came in 1920-22. 1920-22, when the non-cooperation movement and the Khilafat movement was there, Gandhi ji took up the case of the Muslims with the Khilafat issue. Khalifa was the single religious and political head of Islam. So there was anger in the Muslims across the world due to this Khilafat issue, as the British and the French, they had decided a very harsh treatment to be given to Caliph. Now, when this was there, Gandhiji used this Khilafat issue, and that brought a very good degree of Hindu-Muslim communal harmony in non-cooperation movement. The British, they were threatened by this. So just after Gandhiji withdrew the non-cooperation movement, the British aggravated their politics of divide and rule. And by this time, Jinnah was a disappointed leader. The sudden rise of Gandhiji in national politics of India had left no scope for ambitions of Jinnah. Jinnah started turning towards destructive genius. He had become a destructive genius. So Jinnah was trying to capitalize on this situation, and the British wanted to go for more intensifying of the politics of divide and rule. There was a direct match. This would start giving more and more importance to Jinnah and Muslim League.
Okay.
When Simon Commission was there, the Nehru Committee report was there in
Yes.
reaction to that by Congress, and there the separate electorate was rejected. Jinnah got another chance to radicalize the politics, And then he came up with the controversial 14 points, which were
14 action
very,
plan.
very radical demands. So once Jinnah asked the 14 points and radicalized completely the politics, certainly you will find that eventually even a bigger shock would come to Jinnah, that after decades of communal politics in 1937, as I told you, in elections, he and Muslim League, they were big failures. And as I told you, from that time onward, Jinnah completely radicalized the demand and started demanding a separate nation for the Muslims. That is what something that was called Pakistan Resolution, and that was brought by Muslim League in Lahore in 1940.
Okay. Then, sir, how the word Pakistan came here?
It's very interesting, Vidushi ma'am, that you should know that when the Pakistan resolution was there, even there, Muslim League had not used the word Pakistan. And nor Muslim League ever coined the word Pakistan. It was a Cambridge University student, Chaudhry Rahmat Ali, who coined
Okay.
the word Pakistan. By coining, by getting the letters from the words like Punjab, Afghania, Kashmir, Sindh, and Balochistan.
Okay.
Much before that, the great writer Muhammad Iqbal had already demanded a separate nation for the Muslims. But eventually, all that got reflected in 1940 when the Pakistan resolution was there. And this was also the time the Second World War was going on. So Muslim League was trying to capitalize on the situation.
Okay.
We were moving towards partition because by this time, certainly the politics of Muslim League had intensified. That all was making the partition of India and Pakistan almost inevitable.
Good insight, sir. Sir, here I want to ask, like, failure of cabinet mission plan, 1946. That was the last nail in the coffin, and that resulted into partition of India.
True,
So,
it
what's
is.
your take on that?
Cabinet mission was designed to fail.
Okay. Why so, sir?
Cabinet mission was designed to fail. The British designed the mission like this. Look, there were two contradictory things that happened in the mission. First of all, officially, cabinet mission rejected the plan of Pakistan. So
True.
officially, cabinet mission said that Pakistan, which is being demanded, would have so many non-Muslims also in that area, so it cannot be accepted.
True.
So officially, it rejected Pakistan. On the other hand, cabinet mission divided the provinces on the basis of religion. Hindu majority provinces, Muslim majority provinces. So basically, it also divided India in that way, gave a blueprint for Pakistan. So whether Pakistan was there or not, it created more confusion. Rather than solving the problem, cabinet mission was actually sent India to create more problem. Divide and quit. British were on the verge of executing the policy of divide and quit. From this time onward, Muhammad Ali Jinnah demanded that grouping of provinces should be maintained,
Okay.
and Pakistan plan is inherent in the grouping of provinces. Jawaharlal Nehru insisted that grouping of provinces would not be adhered to. And when this was there, Jinnah gave the call for direct action. From 16th of August 1946, that led to massive communal violence and eventual partition of India.
True. So before concluding our session, I want to ask, like, is there any chance for reunification, or what we should learn from our history that such cleavages or fissures should not appear again?
So it's again a very interesting question, Vidushi ma'am. And if I say that reunion is possible, hardly people they would believe me. But yes, psychological reunion is quite possible.
Okay.
क्योंकि एक ही जैसा गाना है और एक ही जैसा खाना है.
But our government is like they are asking vote for Akhand
So,
Bharat.
so when you talk about governments,
Yes,
so governments are there and they have got their own approach, but the nation comes out of people.
True.
No?
Yes.
And certainly when you talk about people, culturally we are very similar to each other. Look, the division of India and Pakistan, the partition of India and Pakistan was most unnatural division in the world history, because you cannot divide Punjabi culture and Bengali culture. Basically, culture is the biggest force of unification. And certainly the politics, the division, certainly it's reality, it's truth, and that cannot be reversed. But the psychological divide that we have created, certainly it can be reversed. And trust me, that would be good for the entire region. Look, entire SAARC is a failure just because of the rivalry between India and Pakistan. Think about ASEAN, it is such a big success. The rivalry is there also among those countries, but they are now like good economic bloc that has developed. This SAARC, like region which has got huge potential, but it is a failure because of the rivalry between India and Pakistan. Certainly, there are so many points of differences, but after 75 years of differences, hardly it had served any purpose. It's time to look for alternatives. It's time to look for alternatives. And maybe partition was inevitable, it's harsh reality, but certainly there are many points that can psychologically connect the people, and certainly that we should try for.
Thank you so much, sir, and sharing. I had a very insightful talk, and I hope our listeners, viewers, will also feel the same. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Vidushi ma'am. And thank you so much for giving me a chance to talk to you. Your entire DNS team is such amazing a team, and DNS is such one amazing a product, such amazing one initiative for current affairs. I'm a big fan of that, and I'm a big fan of the entire DNS team. Thank you
Thank
so
you, sir.
much.
Thank you, sir.